Thank you for having me. And actually, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name from Hilal. You're? Aiden, hi. Thank you for coming. It's amazing what you guys are doing, and I want to give you a t-shirt after. And if Hilal ever needs help, then please contact us because what we are doing is basically enabling and helping you also on the college campuses. So Andrew Hatred is not an organization, it's an ideology. And we want Hilal to be, part of the fight together. So this is for you. Thank you for the honor and offering the platform for me today, and a special thanks for Cheryl, who trusted me that actually I have something to say. It's really honoring to be here, especially during Hanukkah, because it has so many implications for our lives. And before I talk about the light, I want to start with the darkness. And my story starts with the simple fact that I was an anti-Semite. I know that some of you might frown now or even asking, what am I even doing here? But hold that feeling until the end of my speech and then check back with yourself again. I was an anti-Semite who didn't know any better. I was born in 1985, still under the Soviet regime that was occupying Hungary. We didn't have internet or social media. We were exposed to what was around us. And for me, that meant that I thought that all the Jews are Hasidic Jews. Why? Because I was a ballet dancer and my school was beside the shul. So that was my understanding. Jews are the Hasidic Jews. Limited thing, but again, we need to put back, the story where it belongs to, and that's in the 1980s and 90s, where we didn't have this globalized village where we are living today. So I heard around me all the Jewish jokes. That's how I grew up. Jews rule the world, Jews have the big nose, Jews are rich, Jews only help Jews. Yeah, you got the picture. So while I can bring up a line of excuses for my anti-Semitic views, the fact is that I definitely didn't hold positive views about Jewish people at large and the community. But it's also a fact that if you would ask me, I'm not sure I could have actually told you if I ever met a Jew in person. It's so easy to hate what we don't know, especially as kids, and since we have some younger people in the audience, this is very important because you are the future. So my second story starts in 2012 when I reluctantly started to date an Israeli who actually wanted me to go to Israel. And my answer was that I'm not really sure about that. There are just too many Jews there. I know it's not too kind, but that was me. But then I did go to Israel, and it changed my life forever. On the one hand, that change happened overnight. The moment I landed at Ben Gurion, something happened that I can't explain. It's something deep. But then throughout my trip there, I was there for 3 weeks, and from Rosh Hanikra to Elat, to the Galilee, to Judah and Samaria, I saw everything that I could see in 3 weeks, and I went to the most amazing Shabbat dinners of my life with Hasidic Jews, with observants, with absolute seculars, and in the middle of a hippie town of Tel Aviv. So I really got exposed to a different kind of Jewishness. On the other hand, the change really didn't happen overnight because it took me months and months of honest self-observation and self-questioning to ask myself, why did I dislike the Jews? Who taught me to dislike the Jews? And who am I, and what is my opinion without all these external noises around me? Since that time, that Israeli guy actually moved on from my life, partially because I wanted to move to Israel and he didn't want to move back. Talk about irony. But my initial curiosity didn't stop with the relationship. I've been to Israel 20 times since then. I did a master program in Jewish studies at Touro College in Manhattan. And 7 years ago, I started to work for free for a Jewish nonprofit organization, and I didn't know that that's going to be my future. Because today, I only work with Jewish and Israeli nonprofits and organizations, helping them to actually better our future and create a future where Jew hatred has consequences, and Jew hatred is something to be shameful of, and where Jew hatred is not socially acceptable as a form of discrimination. So when I ask you to remember the first thought that came to you when I said I was an anti-Semite, now is the time to check back, because there are two main categories. One is ignorance. The other one is conscious hate. I fell into the first group. It is no justification, but there is a huge difference because I just didn't know better. And I really believe that so many anti-Semite people out there just don't know better. So changing is possible, and it is our responsibility to change. And this is the light we can all hold on to. When someone is consciously hateful against Jews or Israel, the change is less likely to happen. But we have seen miracles, so it is possible. But I always say that people who are ignorant, there is a way to bring that light there, and it is our responsibility. And it really warms my heart to see young people in the audience, because the light starts with you. And here today I'm going to interject something that you might seem that it doesn't belong to this topic, but actually it does, and that is cancel culture. Why? Because the whole notion goes against everything that we are as human beings, and that is development and change and growth. So cancel culture for me is the most anti-human thing that our generation created. I'm not the same person I was a year ago, and hopefully in a year's time I will be again a different person. And the ability to change, to grow and expand, that's the beauty of our being. So in fact, the greatest compliment when someone tells me, "Oh, I didn't remember you were like this." And I was like, yeah, thanks God, I changed. So cancel culture really goes against everything that is human. And I want it to be your take-home message, because if your neighbor ever has an anti-Semitic view, don't cancel for that, but dig deeper. Why? Is it really hate or hatred, or is it just ignorance? And then there is a possibility to change that. So again, I need to emphasize that I believe in change. A few years ago, a Holocaust survivor, in front of several people in Manhattan, told me that anti-Semitism is in my DNA because I am Hungarian. So no matter what I do and say, it is in my DNA. I cried until home because I didn't know how to respond. No answer felt morally right for me at that moment. Today, I would stand firmly in front of him, because today I know that it is not my responsibility what happened 70 years ago. What is my responsibility is that our future cannot repeat the past. But for that, it always takes two to tango. And for that, our stereotypes needs to be broken down. The you contra me walls has to be shattered. This is the work that I am trying to do. The impact is very, very difficult to measure when someone is working in this niche. But for me, success means that when a Jewish person writes me that because of me, he went to Hungary, a country that unfortunately was part of something horrible back then. He went back and he found his family roots, and he's so thankful he did. And for me, this is success, because today he will go to Hungary, he will feel extremely safe, he will come back with a very different notion about my country, and the past is going to be overshadowed by something that gives us hope and light. Or when a non-German guy told me that because of my article he went to Israel, and that German will go home to Germany with a very different view about Israel. He will question everything that he will read in the media. This is how change is possible. On the other end of the spectrum, we need to all remember that silence is violence. And this is why I'm incredibly proud and honored that, among others, I actually can be part of the civil rights movement that we call End Jew Hatred. This is the first movement which is really a civil rights movement for the Jewish people. Every other minority group is ready to stand up for themselves, but when it comes to the Jewish community, you tend to help others, but fail to help yourself. A goal of ours is nothing less than to end the Jew hatred in this generation. And it might sound very, high-flying dream or a utopian dream, but I really believe that we can move the needle. And we all have a role in this. We all need to be that light. Because also, as the rabbi said, one candlelight can light another one. And that's how you spread the good and the light. And before I get to my closing remarks, let me share with you on one more thought that has really started to work within me just recently, and that is education. We always say how important education is, and then I'm thinking a lot about this, but is it really like just pure education is going to solve the problem? And I realize more and more that without shifting our own personal experience, we won't be able to teach anything else than who we are and what we believe in. What does it mean in practice? If I hadn't changed my views, I would have raised a kid with the same stereotypes, with the same anti-Semitic views. So as long as we don't change as individuals, and that also includes teachers in the school, then we are just giving, again, the same kind of education that repeats history. So, I often say that if you are Jewish and you have non-Jewish neighbors, invite them for a Shabbat dinner, invite them for a Hanukkah candle lighting, because you have no idea what that gesture can start in the other person and what the perspective change can really be from one candle lighting, that you just invite them over and explain to them what's happening. So we all have a different role in amplifying this change and bettering our future. Never, ever underestimate yours. Not everybody needs to be a speaker. Not everybody needs to be a journalist. Not everybody needs to be an activist. But you have to be a decent human being, and with that, you are going to know what is your role in making this change happen. So thank you so much for inviting me tonight. Thank you for your hospitality. I don't see the rabbi. But thank you and each one of you to being part of the struggle to fight against Jew hatred, whether it comes from conscious hate or just plain ignorance. Really, thank you so much for being the light for our future generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.